Yo, every time I look at my wall, I turn to the right and I see my books, all of them. I just get so excited. I love my bookshelf. I have all the books here. Um, Working on things that are coming. I'm getting prepped for anything else that I could want. I just really vibe. I love books. I love paperback books, bitch. Alright, speaking of my love of books, this is book 3 of the CLIQUE series, Revenge of the Wannabes. And this book is very special to me because this is my copy. This is my copy that I bought from a weeding sale at my local library in 2011. Either 2011, it went on sale in September 2011, and I think I bought it in like April of 2012. But this is, I didn't have to buy this copy, and I do love this book. Earlier, like when I first read them, the more older covers, which we'll see at some point, appealed to me more because they were modern. But looking back on this, like, I was so excited for this book cover. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna match my outfit to it, which I'm wearing a green tube top and this coat. And I have a little lapel dog. I call him Biscuit. It's from my favorite pin shop. And I'm just so excited. Okay, so I'm gonna read you a back of the book, and then we can get started. Alright, let's read the back of the book. Pretty girls are about to get ugly. Massey Block. When Massey finds out Alicia is trying to start her own clique, she could not be more shocked than if tapered pants suddenly became cool. Don't tell her about 2012. Of course, she'll have to remind Alicia that messing with Massey can only lead to one place, the reject pile. Claire Lyons. Claire has officially arrived. Has finally arrived. She's in the clique and is adored by Cam, a super cute Briarwood boy, but will she be able to stay in Massey's inner circle? Kristen Gregory. Caught in between two cliques, suddenly Kirsten's friendship is more sought after than New Seven's. Whom will she choose? Dylan Marvel. Convinced that Massey is up to no good, might join Alicia's clique, but will Massey replace her with a cheap Dylan knockoff? Alicia Rivera. Has a wallet stuffed with credit cards and a closet full of Marc Jacobs, but does she have what it takes to start her own clique? It is a good thing that I don't read the back of the book until after I'm done reading it, because this is not what happens in this book. Like, bestie, I'll tell you, it's not this. It ain't this, babes. But either way, this was actually a very easy read for me. This is the longest a book has been. This one was 296, and I read it in 11 days, I think. I was done by, excuse me, I took it 11 days of reading for sure, because I took 2 days off because I had friends in town for spring break. So this is actually being filmed pretty early in the month. I'm not in any rush, and I feel like it shows because I'm just like, I just want to talk about this book because it was filled with stuff. Super vague, I know, but you're not allowed to talk about the fact that half my hands don't have nails because I lost them while filming another video. Okay, so this book starts on the 13th of November, and we shake it up a little bit by starting out with Alicia's point of view. She's at the Body Alive dance studio, which if you remember from Alphas, that's where that's Sky's domain. Alicia is a very good dancer. Like, she loves jazz fusion dance, competition dance. She is very good. And she loves the attention she gets from it. And it is something that she doesn't have to compete with Massey for. This is all Alicia Clock. She is the star of dance. So there are girls that go, all the girls at this dance school are obsessed with Alicia and her skills and everything she does. And so, excuse me, they're like girls from all over different schools that they don't know Massey. They know of Massey because everyone in Westchester knows of Massey. They're all like, we want to hang out with the new, like, you're so cool, we want to hang out with you. Why don't you have a sleepover? And she's like, oh my god, why don't I have a sleepover? And like the answer is because Massey normally hosts the sleepovers, but she's like, I don't know, maybe I could do a better job than Massey. So she's like, yeah, I'm gonna totally host a slumber party. And they're like, oh, who's all invited? And they're like, oh, are you gonna invite Massey? I heard Massey's so good at makeup. They want her to go and work at MAC and do her makeup and all that, you know, hyperbole middle school shit. And she's like, do you want to hang out with me or do you want to hang out with Massey? And the girls are all like, we want to hang out with you. We totally want to throw down with you. And Olivia, who is also in this dance class, are like, we can throw just as great a party. So with her new beta in tow, she proceeds to be like, I'm going to have a sleepover instead of having one at Massey's house. So some lingo to pick up on is GLU, which is Girls Like Us. Really doesn't come up much in my discussion of it, but you know, GLU. Which is why she couldn't just invite the girls to Massey's party, because you have to be Girls Like Us to go to a Massey sleepover. So after Alicia has decided she's going to host the sleepover, and you know, she's launched the idea that Massey is like the centerpiece, she's the centerpiece, she then goes home to an empty home. Her family's house cleaner is out, and it's just like her, like, maids and stuff are out, so it's just her and her family in this big empty house. You know, a house that is made in New York, you know, big 6-story, many rooms monstrosity in New York that is normally big enough for her whole family, her extended family, to come from Spain for long periods of time. But, you know, when they're not there, it is just a big empty casa. Centerpiece. She then goes home to an empty home. Her family's house cleaner is out, and it's just like her, like, maids and stuff are out, so it's just her and her family in this big empty house. You know, a house that is made in New York, you know, big 6-story, many rooms monstrosity in New York that is normally big enough for her whole family, her extended family, to come from Spain for long periods of time. But, you know, when they're not there, it is just a big empty casa. So her mom is cooking and playing Spanish music, and, you know, she's Spanish. The mom is definitely Spanish from Spain. That's not the point of what we're discussing. We are introduced to Alicia's bedroom, which is like Bratz genie magic. A lot of rugs, a lot of, you know, overlapping carpets. She described it as like the kind of bedroom Jasmine would have, but, you know, it's, the way she describes it is definitely more Bratz genie magic. When she got to her bedroom, sorry, let me pop that up. When she got to her bedroom, she closed the door and locked it. Ever since her room had been redecorated 2 years earlier, it had been her favorite place on the planet. She'd wanted it to look like the kind of bedroom Jasmine would have in Aladdin, and it did. only Alicia had a walk-in closet and a private bathroom. The walls were painted deep red and orange, and the canopy that hung over her bed was gold. Her CDs were tucked away in tall wooden cases that looked like towers, and multicolored magic carpets were spread out across the floor, but nothing topped the cozy reading nook in the far corner of her room. It was piled high with Moroccan pillows and cashmere blankets. It was perfect for long phone conversations. Alicia flipped open her brand new Motorola picture phone and plopped down on a stack of velvet cushions. She had 5 new messages. So Alicia and Olivia still haven't, faced the fallout from them stealing the votes and lying. So Massey has been calling her and kind of, trying to, talk to her, but, trying not to let on that they know, that she knows that they did what they did. As a reminder, not only did they steal the design contest for the school, but they also sniped Massey's ability to get a interview with Teen People. So Massey has been pretending like it's been totally normal and nothing's wrong for the last week. Alicia is speculating on if she got away with it. She checks her phone and she's got a whole bunch of voice messages in which Massey is dictating what is going to be happening at the slumber party. And then she also gets some messages from the girls from her dance class that are also coming to Alicia's slumber party. And it's just like, well, time to go from, follow the lead of this, of what I'm doing. Are we at the bridge of no return? And Christian is, asking Alicia, they're painting jeans at the slumber party, and Christian is asking Alicia if she can borrow a pair of jeans to paint on, because Kristen's mom would not be down with them painting jeans, because, poor. Alicia sits on how she's supposed to tell Massey that she's not coming to the sleepover, and then she's like, how am I going to set it up? How am I going to deal with this? We are also introduced, we are introduced to Alicia's wants and desires. She wants to be a journalist. She feels like being a journalist is the most respectable way to just be a gossip and tell everyone's business. They always have the hottest pipingest tea, and they're always apt to spill it. So as she's calming herself down for the evening, she, speaks into an earpiece and is like, how much time do I have left, Bill? And then she whips into what is, the news of the day and how she is going to, always come out on top of it. Oh, I'm fairly fucked. So Alicia heads to school and she's hoping to get there bright and early to avoid Massey, but she can't because of traffic. So she gets to her locker the same as Massey. They have a standoff, which ends with some of the most harsh words that this book throws around. When Massey is feeling attacked and hurt, she comes for blood, and we see that throughout this book. It is no small feat of hers to absolutely rip into her quote-unquote best friend. Olivia comes over and is like, oh my god, are you ready for the sleepover tonight? And Massey's like, you're not coming to my sleepover. And Olivia's like, not your sleepover, Alicia's sleepover. And she's like, what? Hey Alicia, what are you doing here? Didn't you have a doctor's appointment? Kristen said as she took a cup out of the box and handed it to Massey. But Massey ignored her, refusing to take her amber eyes off of Olivia. Kristen handed the cup to Dylan. What? Olivia took a few steps back. Why are you all staring at me? You were talking about my sleepover, Massey said, hooking a piece of dark brown hair behind her ear. No, I wasn't, Olivia said with an understanding smile. I was talking about Alicia's. But you're coming, right? I don't remember getting an invitation, Massey shot at Alicia. It's so funny. I was just about to explain when what? When you decided it would just be easier to steal my identity? Massey put her hands on her hips and struck out her neck so her face was closer to Alicia's. What is this, Freaky Friday? I wasn't trying to steal your identity, Alicia said, not exactly sure what she was trying to do. Massey rolled her eyes and looked at Dylan and Kirsten. The two girls tilted their head and looked at Alicia. Dylan broke the tension by burping the words Freaky Friday. Kristen and Olivia burst out laughing. Alicia desperately wanted to laugh with them. She wished she had never thought of hosting the sleepover party and wanted her friends back, but Massey's scowl reminded her that she was in too deep to just walk away without a scratch. Look. This girl from Jazz asked if I wanted to give her a makeover, and this was the only night I could do it. She noticed Massey's face starting to soften, and Alicia thought that everything was going to be okay. We're going to eat tapas and drink virgin sangria, and I would love it if you guys came. Please. Please. Spare me the whole European act. You're more fake than Olivia's nose. Kristen and Dylan and Olivia turned bright. Kristen and Dylan giggled, and Olivia turned bright red. Alicia widened her eyes and gasped. Don't look so surprised. I know about your father being Spanish, Massey said. What? Fake Spanish, Massey said as if everyone should know what Spanish meant. I happen to know his real name is Len Rivers, not Rivera. He's from Brooklyn, not Barcelona, and he made up that last name so your grandmother would bless their marriage. So please, stop trying to impress us. That's like kind of because like her mother is Spanish, and like the idea that it's like she's not Spanish because both her parents aren't Spanish is, and again, that could be a child's understanding of race and ethnicity, but I wouldn't put that in my book nowadays. 2005 was a different time. It was the time of the writer's strike, but I would not do that. I would not. How did you know? Alicia starts to ask, but Massey wasn't through yet. Face it, Alicia, you're an eternal wannabe, or an EW. Ew. As I like to call them. Massey put her hands on her hips and stuck out her neck. You were never going to be me, and your dad is never going to be from Spain, no matter how hard you both try. At one point, Alicia had been prepared to apologize, but not anymore. She had an overwhelming urge to rip Massey's diamond studs out of her ears, but she didn't want to arrive at Teen People's with blood-stained clothing. So she pressed her lips together and kept her anger inside. Hey, you! Have fun at your little fiesta tonight, Massey called over her shoulder as she headed down the hall. Dylan and Kristen followed right behind her, giggling. Alicia gathered up her books and twisted her hair into a low ponytail. Her cheeks were flushed red, and it felt like her stomach was on fire. She tried her hardest not to cry. The last thing she needed was puffy eyes. Alicia turned on her heels of her Cole Haan square-toed boots and started walking in the other direction. Olivia scurried to catch up. Hey, Leash. Kirsten stopped walking and called back to her. Did you by any chance remember to bring me a pair of jeans? Before Alicia could say yes, Massey tugged Kirsten's arm down the hall. Alicia froze. She had no idea what to do next. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. She's 2 books short of a box set. I can't believe I... That is a great line. That deserves to be in here. Olivia is honestly the crux of all this. This would not have happened if 2 books short of a box set dumbass Olivia could not read the room that Alicia, has a plan at any point that doesn't, she's so dumb at every point, at every turn. This young girl proves that some people needed to be left behind, George Bush. Like, actually wild thing to say to someone. So, after the fight in the hallway happens, next period, Alicia and Massey have together, and they're learning about Julius Caesar. They're learning about the Ides of March, which I'm filming this the day after. But, Massey's like, Alicia should be sad. She should look terrible. But she's not. She's not blinking or anything. So Massey, pretending like she's not, fazed by this as well, gets a little cozy, and drifts off to sleep. What then occurs is the single worst nightmare for Massey. Alicia essentially steals her crown and, you know, beats her up a little bit, and everyone laughs. And she's just like, my crown, no. And so she wakes up and she's not fully convinced that it's like didn't happen. So she's just like, this is the worst. We have a bit of a retcon to take care of, which is apparently, I feel like in Best Friends for Never, they stated that they met Cam, the girls all met Cam at the benefit at the end of this book. But in this book, they say that she specifically met Cam Fisher at the boy-girl party, which I just feel is incorrect. And I feel like I shouldn't be the one beholding to lore, because she does not keep it Bible like Shonda. Hate crime. So in this dream, she's going on this date with Cam and how great it's gonna be, and he gives her his jacket, and she's like, oh my god, why don't we go back up to my room? And you think, is this going to Grassy on this bitch? But no, Massey's greatest dream and like greatest fantasy is to just have her room be a mess, and to like make a mess and be not perfect all the time. Oh, that's in frame. I don't like that. And like, he's like, won't your mom be mad? And she's like, no. And they go upstairs and they make a mess. When it came to Cam's gift, so Massey is trying to think of what to get everyone for Christmas, which is upcoming. I need a bookmark. Massey knew she had to find a clever way to convince him that a new one would be much cooler. All she had to do was spend a little quality time with him, which was exactly why she made plans to attend her first Briarwood soccer game very soon. Massey imagined giving Cam a big rectangular box wrapped in red paper and tied with a big green bow. Cam would tear open the box and look at her lovingly with his one blue eye and his one green eye. Then he would try on the jacket and say, Massey, I love my new Hugo Boss leather jacket, but not half as much as I love you. Massey would smile shyly, and would somehow know that he thought she looked beautiful. How can I possibly thank you, he'd ask. I'll show you. And she'd say with a suggestive wink. Massey would take his hand and lead him upstairs to her bedroom. What about your mother, Cam would ask. What a considerate guy, Massey would think while turning the glass knob to her bedroom door. She won't be home for another hour, Massey would say, pushing the door open and revealing her immaculately clean, all-white room. This is perfect, Cam would say as he started to take off his leather jacket. No, leave it on, Massey would say. He would smile appreciatively. Are you ready to do this? Massey would ask. I can't wait, Cam would say. Awesome, let's go. Cam would plug in his iPod into her speakers and blast some Strokes song that Massey had never heard before, but she would bob her head and pretend to love it anyway. Then Massey and Cam would start pulling the books off her bookshelves and hurling them onto the floor. They would tear the goose feathers out of her down comforter and throw them at each other like they were having a snowball fight. They would toss her CDs around like frisbees and yank the evenly folded sweaters out of her walk-in closet and lob them into the air, each giving each other points every time one of them landed on top of the white shade of her floor lamp. They would wrap toilet paper around her mannequin, write their names with lipstick on her bay window. They would be laughing so hard, Massey's stomach would start to feel like she had just done 1,000 crunches. But she would ignore the pain because she'd be having too much fun. She was tired of her mother nagging her to keep her room spotless. She couldn't think of anyone she'd rather mess it up with than Cam Fisher, the cutest boy in. The familiar smell of chocolate, spices, and vanilla filled the air and pulled Massey out of her fantasy. She was no longer laughing with Cam. She was back in Joel's mind-numbing history class. And Olivia Riviera Oh my god. Oh my god. Rivera was standing in front of her, reeking of angel perfume. Massey refused to look up. Instead, she moved her fuzzy pen vigorously across the lined page of her Claire Fontaine notebook so Jill would think that she was taking notes. She could feel Alicia glaring and knew it was time to remind the EU who was dealing with. Massey was about to stand up and confront her when Alicia swatted Massey's pen out of her hand, and it looked like a purple fuzzy dart as it shot through the air and landed on the light brown carpeting 2 rows away. Massey looked straight into Alicia's eyes, trying her hardest not to let the rage she was feeling show on her face. She stuck her leg out in front so she could drag the pen towards her with the wedge of her new boots, but Alicia beat her to it. She stepped on the pen and twisted her toe into it, making like she was grinding out a cigarette. Massey leaned forward in her chair and pushed Alicia's leg, but Alicia was too quick for her. She hooked her thin fingers around the chunky gold chain of Massey's charm bracelet and closed her fist around it. Massey struggled to pull away, but Alicia was stronger than usual. Massey took a deep breath in and counted silently in her head. 1, 2, 3. On the final count, Massey pulled back as hard as she could, but Alicia held on with all her might and ripped the bracelet right off of Massey's list. The tiny bell, the Eiffel Tower, and the miniature black pug, the white gold horse, 3 stars, and her favorite charm of all, the diamond-encrusted gold crown, scattered and bounced around the carpet like a handful of dice. Massey fell to her hands and knees. She needed to get that crown back. Massey could hear the other girls in the class snickering, but didn't dare look up. She was too humiliated. Why wasn't Joel getting involved? Why was Alicia doing this to her? Why wouldn't everyone stop laughing? Looking for this? Alicia said, standing over Massey. She slowly opened her fist, revealing a sparkly gold crown in the center of her palm. Massey reached for it, but Alicia closed her fist and stuffed it in the front pocket of her Ralph Lauren suede pants. She let out a maniacal laugh and grabbed the prodded shoulder bag off the back of her chair and strolled out of the classroom, looking calm and confident. Massey was still on her hands and knees, gathering her charms, when all 18 girls stood up and applauded for Alicia. Even Joel was clapping. Why are you taking her side? She started this! But everyone kept clapping. Massey tilted her head back, hoping the tears would fall back inside her head, but they were coming out too quickly now and couldn't be stopped. When the first ones managed to escape and roll down her cheek, Massey surrendered. She had no choice but to curl up on the floor and break into loud sobs in front of the entire class. But then she wakes up and it's just like, Jesus H. Christ. Brutal dreams. The dream is more brutal than the actual actions that Alicia will take in this. Where you learn, I'm learning so much about Massey. Massey's character is, she likes to be in control. She wants her crown. The symbolism. It might be beating us over the head with it, but at least it is there. Where was the symbolism, Alpha's book? Where? It's not turned so that you can see it. Where was the symbolism? So it's time for class is over and Massey's like, I cannot let this girl take my crown. So it's time for Alicia to head off to her afternoon interview, and the entire school is fascinated by it. Olivia continues to show off that she's a rookie and an airhead, as she's just wowed by everything and just doesn't see things the way that, you know, a top elite Alicia sees it. I'm not gonna. And with that, she sees that Massey, Dylan, Kirsten are all, you know, looking off, being, you know, not seeing her off at all, and are just kind of looking on like some haters. Her friends are nowhere to be seen. They get into Alicia's family limo, and with her driver Dean, they go and they meet Lucinda Hall at Teen People. She's like this bitchy, Devil Wears Prada, rude, terrible adult. There's no adults in the room. I'm thinking like maybe she's like 22, 24 in that age range. And it's like, bestie, these are children. Why are you yelling at them like that? Why are you speaking to them like they're tiny adults? They're not They're in 7th grade. Olivia pulled what appeared to be a black mesh tube top off the corkboard. Alicia, what do you think this is for? This is the latest accessory, Lucinda said quietly, covering the mouthpiece of her cell phone before deciding to just hang up on the person she was talking to. And Avril is going to break it on our cover. It's going to be bigger than her tie-up session in 2002. She signaled for the girls to join her behind the pyramid of straw hats to avoid being overheard. There are 58 different ways to work it, she whispered, but Avril's manager told me she wants to wear it over the cords, just like a big wide butt belt. But how effing brilliant is that? It's called a Dixon. Like, she's a terrible person to be around, and I kind of hate her. She asked a whole array of questions about the girl's body, asking if Alicia's had a nose job. They comment on how ugly her square-toed boots are. Apparently they are like the ugliest things going, because Massey hates them. Everyone hates them. Everyone that we are supposed to believe has a sense of style hates these boots. She teases Olivia for being, you know, bouncy, bubbly, a child Olivia. You know, everyone who gets teased in this book is acting like a child, and then, like, everyone who gets rewarded are these just, like, adult women in teenage bodies, beret, you know, wearing Adonises of the child psychology. And your boots are so retro, Lucinda said to Alicia. I haven't seen square-toed boots since my babysitter rented Young Frankenstein for me like 10 years ago. Alicia felt the blood rush to her face. She wanted to sue Saks for selling her a pair of old-fashioned Frankenstein boots. But these are from Spain, Alicia lied. They're very in there. My mom brought them back for me. They aren't even out in America yet. Cool, Lucinda said. She actually sounded excited. You girls are pretty cool. I swear you're never going to believe this, but when I was in the 7th grade, I was a total beast, and I had no boobs. No boobs. Alicia folded her arms across her chest when she noticed Lucinda was checking her out. Gross. Go to jail. Go to jail. How much did you pay for those? Lucinda asked. I bet they were at least $5 grand a pop. I didn't pay for these. I would never. Hey, Barnaby, come check out this girl's boob jog. It's perfect. What? What? Lucinda said to a guy who was walking towards them in the hall. He was wearing tight white pants, moccasins, and an off-the-shoulder cable knit sweater. This is Barnaby, our office photographer. Pablo, our other photographer, is on assignment in Bora Bora. Hey! Those are fierce, he said to Alicia's boobs. I hate it here. Jesus Christ. She smiled politely and put her Prada bag in front of her chest. I paid for my nose, Olivia offered. Normally, Alicia would have been mortified, but she was grateful for the distraction. Oh my god, so did I. Lucinda offered her palm to the air and high-fived Olivia. So they're sitting around getting ready for the interview, and then she gets, like, called in by one of her colleagues, and they're like, hey, we need some pretty in a real way type girls. Do you have some friends? And so they end up, Alicia's essentially like, we will forego doing this interview if you let me be in this magazine shoot and shoot for models for teen people. That's like way more important. So of course she takes it and she's like, oh my god, yes. So now they're like, cool, get your parents to sign off on it, send me the headshots of your pretty friends, and we'll totally deal with this later. Well, Alicia goes downstairs and Dean's like, hey, there's a gift from your parents here, and it's tickets to a Beyonce concert. Hey Google, what tour was Beyonce on in 2005? Oh, so it wouldn't have been a Beyonce tour. It would have been a Destiny's Child concert. But whatever. Does not matter. And it was Destiny Child's, like, farewell tour. You could not have gotten tickets to that. But whatever. I appreciate Lacey Harrelson's ability to see that Beyonce was going to be a big star, and that, you know, this reference would have held up 12 years later. Not 12. plus 2, 17 years later. This reference is about it can drive. So, Dean, back to where we were. Dean and Alicia and Olivia are walking through Times Square. Stacks of white silk scarves dotted with green, red, and purple, and orange and black. Blue and black Louis Vuittons were on display. A sign tacked onto the edge of the table said, Louis Vuitton scarves, $15. $15? Olivia screeched. Those are like $300 at home. Are you serious? Alicia said. She raised the corner of her upper lip to show her utter repulsion. Olivia, those are fake. Alicia reached into her purse and pulled out a sheet of lucky stickers. She peeled off a no and stuck it to one of the scarves. Olivia immediately tore off the sticker. Why would you say that? Look, Alicia flicked the cardboard sign. For starters, this Louis Vuitton spells his last name with 1 T, not 2. Alicia paused so Olivia could absorb the information. And they're only $15. So, they look real, Olivia said. But they're not! Alicia glanced at Dean for backup, but he shrugged and shook his head. He learned the hard way to stay out of Alicia's shopping disputes. No one will ever know. They won't know. But they'll know. They won't know. I could give them away as holiday gifts. My shopping would be done before Thanksgiving. I'll give you a special deal, said the guy behind the table. Just for you, pretty lady. He rubbed the back of his beard and he looked like he was giving the special deal some serious thoughts. 10 for $100. Don't do it, Alicia said from her side of her mouth. It's a sin to give knockoffs at such a holy time of year. Please, Olivia said. You're just jealous because you didn't think of it first. She handed 5 20s to the guy in exchange for a handful of fake scarves. Whatevs, Alicia said, tightening her grip around her Prada bag. Maybe we'll go plastic tree shopping next. Very funny. I'm gonna start calling you Faux Olivia from now on because everything you have is fake. Oh, really? Alicia Rivers? Olivia fired back. Alicia felt her stomach drop. Thanks a lot. I was finally starting to forget about Massey. Sorry. Now it's time to rub it in Massey's face that she gets to go to the Beyonce concert, and she doesn't. So, around this time, the rest of the pretty committee, sans Claire, is getting spray tans. Kristen is nervous because she feels like it's not gonna look good because they're getting spray tans instead of laying out to tan. And Massey's like, you just gotta be fearless, girl. And Massey gets into the area. Kristen and Dylan start bickering again about whatever. So Massey goes and does the thing first. About halfway through, Alicia calls and it's just like, I know you're mad at me. I just want to let you know that I'm not having the sleepover party anymore. And you want to get invited back to mine? Right. Well, it's too late. It starts in 2 hours and you'll never make it back from New York City. Massey did her best imitation of Alicia's obnoxious tone. Dylan put her hand over her mouth to keep from laughing. Relax, Massey, Alicia snapped. I don't want to go to your lame sleepover. If I wanted to spend my nights doing arts and crafts, I'd babysit a 6-year-old. Besides, Olivia and I are going to the Beyonce concert. No fair, Kristen mouthed. Alicia, do I sell fertilizer? Massey asked. No, why? Alicia fell for Massey's setup. Then why do you think I give a crap? Dylan and Kirsten bust out laughing, and Massey heard Alicia let out a frustrated sigh. I'm calling because I want my Calvin Klein winter white blazer back. Alicia said, why? Are you packing up? Is it because the Rivers family is finally moving back to Brooklyn? Kristen and Dylan laughed even harder this time, and Massey pushed them away from the phone. Alicia ignored the dig. I was asked to model for Teen People's holiday issue, and I may want to wear it. Massey suddenly felt like she was falling down a well. There was a loud ringing in her ears, and she felt dizzy. Was this really happening? Alicia cheated, and now she was being rewarded for it? Would Kirsten and Dylan like Alicia more now that she was a model? Would the rest of the school? Massey knew her expression must have changed to one of sheer horror because Kristen and Dylan looked at her and mouthed, what? The concert's about to start, so I have to go. So they're discussing the Teen People situation. They're already super jealous about the Beyonce concert, and then she drops that bomb, and that she's got a modeling job for Teen People, and you know, Massey immediately huffs out and she's like, time to war room. She drops off Kirsten and then sends Dylan off to be dropped off at her own home, and she's just like, ah! And then she looks down and her spray tan is all stripy because she didn't wipe it off in time. Massey goes up to her mom looking for some kind of comfort, and she finds that her mom is at a women's book club meeting, you know, trying to, you know, find center and zen in her life and not always be stressed, angry, and like always on one. And, you know, finding center in her own life. And she's just like pushing her daughter away. So we get a current state of the union. It ends. Dr. Juice, Lufa, Rivers. Question, 7-word for revenge. Question, 7-word for vengeance. Answer, revenge. Out, Starbucks, spray tans.
Rivera.
Rivera's. 11-letter word for mercy. Answer, forgiveness. So Claire has lived at the Block's guest house for 3 months, and it's starting to finally feel like a home. Her family's playing cranium together and drinking ice cream floats. She's been thinking about Camelot too. She's still thinking that Massey's gonna be so excited to share the information with her. And in that respect, she is delusional. So after playing cranium with her family for a while, Massey shows up and tells her it's time to exact revenge. So they're up in Claire's room, and Massey sees that Claire takes a whole bunch of photos of her outfits. And she's like, what is that for? And she's like, well, I use it so that I never repeat an outfit, or I know how an outfit's gonna look on me. Claire is feeling silly, like Massey's gonna tease her for it, and Massey's like, that's actually a great idea. Do you mind if I steal it? So Massey tells her about the teen people modeling job and that it's time to destroy her. They discuss what the plan is, and we won't find that out for later, but no, it's going to be nasty. Massey calls teen people, and Lucinda Hall pretends to be Olivia and Alicia, and tries to be like, oh my god, we cheated, we feel so bad, Lucinda, please take back our cover story. Lucinda's like, I don't actually give a shit about if you cheated or not, but if you're gonna do this modeling thing, I need you to send pictures. So Claire takes one of her good photos, and from her outfit list, and Massey's like, I'm gonna compile some of Dylan and Kirsten, we're gonna send them off. We're gonna pretend to be Alicia and Olivia. Claire gets an email from Cam asking her to come to a soccer game tomorrow. And he has a surprise for her hidden under the seat, and she's so excited because she actually hasn't gotten to spend any time with him because it just doesn't feel real. She's just been emailing him back and forth. Time to gain some time to meet up. So everyone's at the Briarwood Academy soccer game. Briarwood wins, and we talk to Darrington again. Darrington is, you know, the big shot soccer player. Olivia makes a fool out of herself because of course she does that, and but you know, Alicia's just like sick of it at this point. We need some boys. I'm listing them just in case they become more important. I can put up some more Bratz boys if you'd like. We have Chris Lovett, Danny Robbins, and then we talk about Harris Fisher. Harris Fisher is Cam's older brother. He is in 11th grade. He's like 17. And, like, they are so fascinated with him. They are so attracted to him. And I think it's so gross. I hate it. I hate it. I knew girls in high school who had boyfriends who were, like, in high school. And I even knew this one girl who had a boyfriend, predator, abuser, groomer, who was like 21. And I'm like, bestie, you're 14. Like, they had like a tumultuous relationship, and you'd be like, you're such a nice girl. Why? We knew the girls. The issue isn't that this is unrealistic. I just hate it. I hate it, thanks. So, of course, Alicia wants to hang out with Harris because she feels like, you know, she's got experience with boys, so she should be able to hang out with a young man. Like, what does an 11th grader and a 7th grader truly have in common? And we will see, honestly, nothing. So, Alicia wants to hang out with Harris, so she's like, oh my god, you want to go to this band's concert? I could get you tickets. And so she's like, I'll get you 2 tickets to see his favorite band. And he's like, cool. And Kim is like blocking this interaction. It's like, if you help me get closer to Claire, I will help you do this. Done. And she's like, done and done. Cool. They talk about the modeling thing some more. And Alicia sees the pretty committee across the room, across the stadium. She can see that they're talking about her. And she's getting increasingly more upset with him. Cam goes over to talk to Claire, but he can't get anything. So he's like, Alicia, if you help me get close to Claire, like, we'll deal with this. And Alicia's like, why don't you want to talk to Massey? And he's like, I don't like Massey. I like Claire. Massey's fine and good and all that, but... So now with everyone's plans in order, you know, Alicia's got to get the tickets from her dad because her dad's an entertainment lawyer. He can get tickets to anywhere from anyone. And Cam will only help her in this endeavor if he helps her woo Claire. They decide that they are trying to leave before the pretty committee leaves. We have a really purposeful line about this power structure. You should totally wear your Dixon, Fo said. To daytime, Alicia said, I'm thinking more Mew Mew with a splash of Calvin. You always know what to do when it comes to boys. I learned a lot from my older cousins. You should come to Spain next summer and hang out with us. They'll teach you everything. If I did, would that make me your beta? Olivia asked. Huh? Alicia stopped walking and looked her friend in the eye. The cold temperature turned her breath into white puffs of air that came out of her mouth when she spoke. Well, didn't you want to spend the summer with Massey and her family in the Hamptons? Olivia asked. Yeah, so? Alicia wondered when Massey's comments would end. So isn't this when you became her beta? Because when you came back, she was the alpha, and you were like her second in command. Yeah, but I'm so over being second, Alicia said softly. Then be an alpha, Olivia said. And I'll be your beta. I've always wanted to be one. Are you serious? Alicia said, still not moving. Totally. Betas have it made. They don't have any of the pressure of leading, but they still get the status. No, I meant about me being alpha. Alicia said, given. Olivia said, and I mean, you're only as good as the Strokes concert with Harris Fisher. Only a true alpha could have pulled that off. You're natural. Alicia peeled off a yes sticker and stuck it to Olivia's cheek. And for the first time ever, the ditzy girl had actually said something right. Like, you can kind of see where this was going. And I think if it had been allowed to, if genre book, chapter books, like series like this had been allowed to continue, a la like Gossip Girl or It Girl had been allowed to, you know, continue, if that hadn't been killed in the 2008 housing crisis, like, I think alphas would have been the next great series, but with way more fantastical takes. You can, you know, people, it's allowed to get weirder because we're in an inherently sci-fi environment, which this is firmly grounded in the real world, even though they're in the same universe. There's just, the way the books are written are way more realistic. Now it's Monday and they're waiting for the class as a school's gift exchange, like Secret Santa style. At OCD. Kirsten has a job working at the mall wrapping presents, and it's going to affect her ability to hang out with the rest of the group. And of course she dances around the fact that she is pure. We know this, but Massey doesn't. Massey turns in the rest of the photos of the girls to Lucinda, and Alicia joins the group with oblivious Olivia. And they introduce the Dixon, which again, I must explain to you, essentially looks like this, but made out of like sheer fishnet material. And they're just like, this is the next biggest thing in fashion. Just like wrapped around their silly little bodies. And since the Teen People meeting, Alicia has been incorporating it into her outfits. Massey thinks it looks freaking ridiculous and doesn't even know it's supposed to be high fashion. It's just an item that seems a ridiculous eyesore to put random fishnets around her waist. And she's just like, why are you wearing this stupid girdle? So Massey is very quick to clock that Olivia has fake Louis Vuitton scarves. Mind if I use some of this? Olivia asked, talking about. So she opened her Chanel compact mirror and acted like she was touching up her cheek tint. Go ahead, Claire said, handing her tape. Thanks. Olivia pulled a fake Louis Vuitton scarf out of her knockoff Hermes bag and tossed it on the table. Olivia! Alicia said, do you have another one of those scarves? I don't have anything to give, and she pulls out an index card and reads the name written on it. Emily Isbin. Why don't you give her that stupid girdle you're wearing, Christian said. Massey laughed with the others. FYI, this is a Dixon. We got it from the fashion editors at Teen People. Avril will be wearing one on the February cover. You'll see. They're gonna be huge. Alicia poked her pinky through one of the holes in the mesh. There are 58 ways to wear it. 59 if you count stuffing it up your ass. She says but. I should do a correct line read. 59 ways if you count stuffing it up your butt, Dylan said. Everyone laughed again, but Alicia ignored their jabs. Of course you would know all of this if you bothered to ask me how our interview was. No one asked for a single detail, not even Claire, and Massey was grateful. Why give Alicia the satisfaction? Not. They're all pretty hurt by what Alicia did to them. So as much as it's about Massey and her crew standing tall together, it's also about the fact that, you know, they're united against a common enemy. Alicia's treachery. They go back and forth. Massey and Alicia go back and forth. Alicia pulls out her ace. She knows that Cam likes Claire. Cam likes Claire. Claire likes Cam. And Massey likes Cam. And she's just like layering up. She just like combo breakers her. She's like, I know that you like Cam. Cam doesn't like you. He likes Claire. And you're also being a nuisance because he wants to spend time with Claire, but you keep getting in the way. They're like, Claire, did you know that? And she's like, I didn't tell anyone because, you know, he's cute. And Massey's just like, actually, he's a big old dork and he's stinky and he's his brother's knockoff and he's gross and he's not his own person. You shouldn't want to be around him. He'd totally kill your street cred girl. And you can't be a part of the pretty committee if you want to be with Cam. We'll introduce you to other cute boys at Briarwood as long as you promise to give up that dingus. And she's like, okay, I guess maybe. So we'll move on to the ultimatum next. But it's just like, ugh. It's time to do the psychological damage. It's time to open the doors. Everyone's out. All the belongings. Massey's mom has been taking anger management, life management classes, trying to teach herself how to let it go, like I said previously. And so she is letting the pretty committee paint on the barn outside of the Massey's mom would not let that fly, but they're also remodeling the barn and turning it into a state-of-the-art gym, so it really doesn't matter because when the mirrors goes up you won't even see them. They're painting a mural of Alicia's downfall and the history of their friendship, and this is peak bullying. Like, Jesus Christ. It's bad in other books, but this felt visceral. It's like immediately a 10 out of 10. Psychological damage. So the girls get everything done before Alicia can show up. And they come up and yikes. Okay, so Claire brings up Cam and is like, oh, whoops, that they were emailing each other, but she slips. And Massey's like, so you're choosing him over the rest of us? And she's like, no, I just, I'm choosing friendship. Massey's like, prove it, essentially. Give me the note that he left. The note from the end of the last book that, was gotten. She reads it all over the time to, like, really think about it. Massey's like, to prove that you are with us and not trying to be with him, give me the note. So she takes the note and drops it in a bucket of paint, essentially ruining the note forever. And you know me, I truly believe that you should always choose friendship over boys, but this is like absolute psycho behavior. Well, not psycho behavior, but it's not very girl boss of you. So at first they hear this sound and it's Todd eavesdropping because Todd is bored. He doesn't really have friends. Like, he has friends, but it's not the same as back home where Claire's friends would let him hang around. So he didn't have to sneak around, he could just hang around. And Massey does not play that, and she's all sad. Claire's heart's all sad. And then seeing Todd be hurt, well then, now Alicia has arrived, and it's time. Alicia comes in and she can already sense that something is about to go down. And it is just as bad as when it's time for the true psychological thriller. They let her into the barn and then they blindfold her. Well, you emailed me saying you'd made a tribute to our friendship. How could I not come for that? Alicia rolled her shoulders back, showing off her perfect jazz posture. Fucking read me to filth, why don't you? Massey smiled sweetly. Thanks. I'm glad you're ready to apologize, Alicia said. I totally missed. Who said anything about apologizing? Massey stepped back to reveal Christian, Dylan, and Claire. Oh, hey! Alicia waved at Kirsten and Dylan. I felt weird not hugging them. Claire. Hi. I wasn't expecting to see you here. Claire sat uncomfortably and looked down at her cuticles. We had some extra room this week, Massey said, practically spitting the word extra at Alicia. Yeah, I guess. Unsure of what to say next. She had left her coat in the limo and was starting to feel chill. Can Elise come in? Massey stepped aside. The place was a mess. The floors were covered in newspaper, paint cans, and dirty brushes were lined up against the wall. 4 Dr. Juice cups had been stacked on the rungs of the gray stepladder, and the CD and empty jewel cases were scattered everywhere. Has your mother seen this place? Alicia asked. She remembered the time Massey got grounded and couldn't go to Six Flags because she didn't pick up Bean's chew toy off the floor of her bedroom. Yep, she's fine with it. Alicia felt like a stranger. So much had changed in the few days. It was like she didn't even know Massey anymore. Don't you want to know what the tribute is? Dylan asked, gripping an open bag of Doritos. Given. Alicia tried to steady her tone. Massey snapped her fingers and Claire shut out the lights. The room was completely black and Alicia's heart started racing. She wanted to scream, but kept telling herself that they were only trying to scare her. Someone flicked on a floor lamp. Thank you, Alicia heard herself say. Long shadows were cast against the wall and Alicia could hear the wind howling through the open window. Suddenly a cold hand brushed against her face. Alicia jumped and whipped her head around. Who was that? Kristen giggled. Oh my god, Kristen, you scared me. Alicia slapped her hand over her heart, but Kirsten didn't say a word. She stood there, twirling a purple satin blindfold around her index finger. The front said Diva at Rest in white rhinestones. Alicia pulled back the thin elastic and slipped the blindfold over Alicia's eyes. Everything went dark again. You guys, this is so stupid. Alicia heard the panic in her voice. They probably did too. We want it to be a surprise, Kirsten said. Everyone started whispering. What's happening? Alicia stomped her foot. What is this? She felt Kirsten's clammy hands on her arm. Just follow me, Kirsten said, pulling her across the barn. Alicia's mouth went dry and she was desperate for a fresh coat of cloth. She tried to stay calm by imagining herself telling the story to Harris Fisher while they were at the Strokes concert, but they only made her more anxious. She still had no ideas what shoes to wear. What would the other girls do in her place? Would they go along with it? like she was, would they resist? Dylan would probably burp or do something disgusting to make them all laugh, or she'd threaten them, saying her famous mother would expose them on her talk show. Kristen would come up with some fact about blindfolding people that could lead to an untimely death, and they would apologize immediately. Claire would be cool, never letting on that they were scaring her. Massey would outsmart them all and escape. The smell of paint fumes was making her nauseous. Okay, enough, Alicia asked. What is this? The writings on the wall, Dylan said. Huh? The writings on the wall, Dylan repeated. See? Kirsten yanked the blindfold off of Alicia's head. Ouch, watch the elastic. Alicia rubbed the back of her head. Finally, she looked up, and she felt like she was on a 5th grade trip to the MoMA, trying to make sense of the abstract shapes and colors painted on the wall in front of her. This mural represents our friendship over the past few weeks. Massey sounded like a museum tour guide. Alicia's mouth hung open. Massey grabbed Kristen's lacrosse stick and pointed to the drawing of the catwalk. Over here on the far left, we have the OCD Fashion Week's uniform contest. Alicia looked at the painting of the two girls. One had dark hair and enormous boobs. The other had wavy blonde hair and a bandage across her nose. Alicia knew they were meant to be her and Olivia. They each had bubbles over their heads like comic books. Olivia said, "We're losers beyond repair. How are we going to win?" Alicia said, "Cheat." "That's crazy," Alicia said. "You can't prove that." She lifted her chin to try and look cool, but her mind was screaming with panic. They knew! They knew! What did they find out? How long had they secretly hated her? "What's that?" She pointed to a massive purple blob. "That's our proof." What? "Remember how we voted by putting thimbles in a box of the team we thought she'd win?" Alicia nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the wall. Where could this possibly be going? "I painted mine purple for good luck." "So?" Alicia hissed, getting impatient. The next part had nothing to do with her. "So your box had a purple thimble in it." Massey's face turned dark red. "You voted for me?" Alicia shook her head in disbelief. "Why?" Massey put her hands on her hips and shouted, "You're starting to sound as dumb as Olivia." Alicia heard Kristen's phlegmy laugh and couldn't control herself anymore. "What's so funny?" "I didn't vote for you. You switched our boxes," Massey shouted. Alicia quickly searched the room with her eyes. 2 of the windows were too high to reach, and the other 2 were too narrow to fit through. She could probably beat Massey, Claire, and definitely Dylan to the door, but Kristen would catch her. She was trapped. Alicia looked straight into Claire's big blue eyes and silently begged to be rescued. If anyone knew what it felt like to be on Massey's bad side, it was Claire. But all Claire did was look at Massey, then her cuticles. "Ready for more?" Massey asked, redirecting everyone's attention to the big white circle on the wall. A real Ralph Lauren blazer and a pair of jeans were tacked to the circle, and just under the words OCD uniform, a big red X sliced through the whole thing. Alicia knew the hanging outfit represented her winning uniform idea, which every girl at OCD would wear in the new year. "As you can see from the X," Dylan said, "there will be no longer a uniform at OCD." Alicia raised her eyebrow. "That's right. We had a meeting with Principal Byrne the day after the contest, and explained how you cheated. My mother came with us and made it very clear that if they went forward with your idea, she would expose the entire scandal on the daily grind." Dylan pulled the Poochie scarf off her head and shook out her thick red curls before continuing. "And you know, Burns has been terrified of my mother's talk show since her story, Hidden Carbs in the Cafe." That can probably be cut. "So there's no more uniform?" Alicia's voice quivered. "It's done." Massey snapped her fingers. "Done," Dylan said. "And done. Period." "This next painting is the future, Alicia." Massey tapped the wall with the lacrosse stick. "As you can see, you're sitting alone on a sleeping bag, which is what you get for trying to start your own sleepover." Alicia was finished. She knew she couldn't show up to school tomorrow or any other day. She would have to move to Spain and live with her cousins. "And now, for the last part of our tribute," Massey said. "I think it speaks for itself." And then it's a current State of the Union. In was Claire, out is Alicia. Claire takes a bow, and then and they're just like, ah, ha, ha. Oh my God. And that's the end of our tribute, Massey said, her voice cracking a little. Alicia sniffled and wiped her nose with the back of her hand. She wanted to drop to her knees and apologize, but it was too late for that. Thank you so much for being such a loyal friend, Alicia. As soon as you figure out what we did to deserve your backstabbing, let us know. Alicia thought she saw Massey's eyes start to water, but everything looked so blurry and wet through her own tears, she couldn't be sure. At least they didn't know about the Teen People shoot. But you told... Oh, that's right, because you found out through lying, yeah. Well, Alicia leaves. The girls are, scream, crying, and laughing. Alicia leaves. She's trying to call Dean, and she can't get him. I'm so sorry. My throat is so thick with mucus from reading. Alicia and her square-toed boots leave, and she's like shaking and crying, and she comes across Todd and his friend Tiny Nathan, and Todd kind of pushes her to make her own pretty committee, the unbelievably pretty committee. And it would be better than Massey's, like someone running for class president in a mid-2000s TV show. Just like that, she's gonna make all the promises, shopping trips to New York City, ice cream dates, no more counting carbs, we're all gonna be fashionable, my credit card, all that. Show me. You don't have to be a girl like us. You can show me the prettiest, most popular girl at OCD. And that is, that's her goal. So Dean pulls into the driveway and she gets in. And in her traumatized state, she does one more news report. And now she's going to create the unbelievably pretty committee. And soon... Oh my god. It's gonna be messy. And then she cries. So, in the coming days, Massey asks her friends if they want to go shopping with her in the city during their carpool, but everyone can't go because Dylan has to go to St. Bart's on a weekend trip, and Kristen has to work at her present wrapping job, and Claire goes to the movies with Lainey. Massey hates going shopping alone. She doesn't like being seen without her people, and so she's like, we'll just go another time. Woo-wee! Okay, so Alicia is in swimming class with Olivia, Claire, and Lane. It's a synchronized swimming class, and they do it in like rows, like groups. So it's not all at once. So during her break in swimming, Olivia and Alicia, damn you, Lacey Harrison, for putting all those names that are so similar together, start trying to pick out their replacements for their pretty committee. They need their Dylan and they need their Kristen. Olivia is helping her find her replacement Kristen and Dylan's. They pick Coral McAdams, who everyone calls Strawberry because she has strawberry red hair. She's supposed to be their Dylan analog. And they also pick Corey Daniels. She's the second best athlete in school behind Kirsten. She's also like a willowy blonde, but she's also like hunched over all the time. So it is just, she's not quite as good as Dylan, but they're looking for second-rate material. She decides she wants to call Harris about the Strokes tickets and realizes she doesn't have his number. She calls Cam. He's in the middle of class. He's like, give me the number. He gives her the first 8 digits of the phone number and is like, you can have the last 2 if you let me know that I can hang out with Claire, if you set up a hangout with Claire. So she talks to Claire about what happened, and she's just like, hey, I know you, of all people, know how bad it is to be on Massey's bad side. Sorry that happened. And Claire's like, well, I'm still mad at you for sabotaging our win. And she's like, you know what? I apologize. I'm seeking therapy in the most condescending way. And it's just like, well, if we forgive each other, you should go hang out with Cam. Cam was really gonna like you. I won't tell anyone, pinky swear. The two of them kind of have an agreement. They agree to meet up on Friday. She calls back Cam and is like, I got you, your girl. Give me what I want. She gives him the number, and she calls him while she's in the locker room. She calls him while she's in the locker room in front of all the other girls to assert dominance. Page 147. Now give me the rest of Harris's phone number. I have exactly 8 minutes. Within seconds, Alicia was dressed and dialing Harris Fisher's cell phone number. She walked over to the mirror and quickly put on a bit of mascara. It's ringing, she said to Fo, but spoke loud enough for Strawberry and Corey to hear too. Shoot! I guess I got Harris Fisher's answering machine. I guess I'll leave him a message. Yo, Harris. Oh, sorry. Yo, this is Harris, and if you don't know what to do by now, hang up. After the beep, Alicia started pacing. She loved his smooth, confident voice and was determined to sound just as alluring. Hey there, Harris. It's me, Alicia. You know, Rivera? Alicia looked up and noticed at least 5 more girls had gathered around the listen. Alicia knew she finally had something Massey Block didn't have. Experience with boys. She casually placed her foot on the changing bench and rested her arm against the top of her leg before continuing. She wanted her pose to scream confidence. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know I'll be over Friday night around dinner time. Then she changed her tone to a soft purr to drop off a little something I know you want. She threw in a naughty giggle for effect and then ended with a ciao. 6 girls stood motionless and stared at Alicia with their mouths open. It looked like she had hit pause on a scene in a movie. It was perfect. And then Alicia has a moment where she's just like, she leaves after feeling her most confident. She's like, why do I need to have fake Dylan's and Kirsten's when I could have the real things? So she walks up to Dylan and Kirsten, who are at the Starbucks stand, and they're just like, hey, besties. And they're just like, no. They're still pretty devoted to Massey. And then when Massey shows up, she's just like, and they appear and they're gone. She brags about talking to Harris. And just as a note, just in case this comes up in any, trying to keep it Bible, Alicia's cousin is supposed to be visiting from Spain at some point. Her name is Nina. So maybe that will pop up. Who knows? Massey comes around the bricks and is just like, get away from the Wannabes, and they leave. Massey's setting up when her mom walks in, and they're talking about, Massey's kind of reminiscing on how the barn used to be before it was a gym, and it's like the most unhinged quote I've gotten in a while. It is... Kendra hung the blanket over the thigh abductor machine. It's gonna be great having a whole gym, isn't it? She walked towards Massey, her kitten heel slippers clacking against the floors with every step she took. She put her thin, bony arm around Massey's shoulder and pulled her close. Isn't it? I guess, Massey said, looking around the barn that used to belong to her horse Brownie. When the horse was little, Massey had covered the walls with posters of young fillies that she thought Brownie would find sexy. She drew pictures of a big grassy field and rainbows for her horse, and then tacked them into the softwood around the stall. She would even buried her old shirts in the haystack so Brownie would always know that Massey was close by. But now the white stallion lived at the upscale Gallowalk Farms, and the only thing left from Massey's past was the mural she had painted with Kirsten, Dylan, and Claire. What the fuck? Sexy children are wild. I think I have to watch Turning Red. Maybe I will have a more generous, Jesus H. Christ, words are hard. Generous take about preteens and the word sexy, because generally I haven't forgotten what it's like to be a preteen. However, I was acutely aware of not seeming like a weird horse girl, but, you know, I guess at the end of the day, that's all Massey is a weird horse girl. Massey compares herself to Julius Caesar, which is pretty apt because she's about to get stabbed 36 times in the back by her Brutus. She already has been, but you know, 13 more dudes, what is it? As they're sitting around talking, Dylan and Kirsten arrive and they sit around and they're talking about what Alicia was saying to them, and they're just like, they just kept trying to brag about having a date with Harris Fisher, and they're like, yeah, right. And they all decide, they all look at each other and they all decide to share a dark secret, in which Dylan shares that she's not going on a Caribbean vacation to St. Bart's. She's going to an upstate New York fat camp named St. Barth's, and so her mother's sending her up there so that she can lose weight, and Kirsten admits to being poor, and that's why she is wrapping gifts, that she needs the money, and Massey admits to liking Cam, and that's why she tried to you know, dissuade Claire from picking Cam. They pinky swear on each other, and then they hear this like rattling, and they think for a second it might be Bean, but Massey realizes it's Bean is right next to her, and she's just like, shh, I don't want to ruin this nice night I'm having with my friends. It's, you know, it's better to just cover your head and hope it moves on. Hope it's just Claire. Well, Claire is moving about. Claire is going off, gathering her bike to sneak out and go meet up with Alicia to meet up with Cam. Claire and Alicia meet up, and they bike over to Cam's house. Cam lives in a humble suburb with a single car. They roll up and they go inside. Well, Claire goes inside. Alicia stays outside to gavort and chat with Harris about the tickets. She meets his parents, and she realizes they're just like her parents. They're like real nice, down-to-earth people, normal people. And she leaves her coat in one of the extra bedrooms and then goes down to the basement to go play video games with Cam. He's playing himself some Thug 2, some Tony Hawk's Underground. And she's having a really good time with him, and she can't tell if he likes her or not, and then all she can think about is Massey being like, he's a wannabe, he's not worth it, and so she lies when he's like, do you not like me? And she lies and says she has a boyfriend back in Florida, and that she would like him, but that, you know, she's got the boyfriend back in Florida, and that's why she was coming over, was to break up with him. She leaves, he's all in a huff, and she leaves in absolute tears. She goes outside, and Alicia's nowhere to be found. As she's biking back home, she comes across Lane and Eli, who Claire called ahead of time to be like, hey, I might need some backup on this emotionally, and they help her back to the Block estate. They all discuss how Massey is a master of manipulation and controlling, and she's telling Claire who she can and can't be friends with. Lainey has effectively disavowed herself from the Massey industrial complex. She's not, you know, so attached to what Massey thinks of her, and she's trying to pull Claire out of that as well, but, you know, Claire wants what she wants, and even if Lane is right in so many more ways than others, it's still, you know, she just wants to belong. The pretty committee is having, you know, their slumber party. She comes by, and they're like, hey, what are you doing out there? And she's just like, I just went and broke up with Cam. And they're just like, oh, girl. And they envelop her. They're very nice. They officially invite her to be a part of the pretty committee. And they want her to come and be with them for their slumber party. And, you know, it not be, you know, her not to feel alone in this time. I hope this girl can finally have some stability in her relationships in the next, because it is always crying. Claire is always crying. She cries on her way back up to the guest house, her parents' house, while she goes and gets her sleeping bag, because it's like, I belong, but also Cam, and she's just like so sad all the time. So Olivia goes off to tell her new pretty committee, Olivia, Strawberry, and Corey, about her tryst with Harris. They're having their inaugural ride of the new carpool, and they chat about how they met up. He took her for a ride around the corner in his Mustang. They're like, oh, did he kiss you? And she's like, she sees her driver in the rearview mirror be like, did this boy kiss you? And he didn't. But they don't need to know that. She's like, you know, a woman never tells. And they're all giggly and excited because they're just like, oh my god, our friend's just so mature. Oh my god. Alicia is trying to institute all the games the pretty committee had with, you know, punch buggies and all that, but it's just not working. They're like normal girls, and they don't respond well to just her mean-spirited, like, bitching and tearing each other down. Olivia made some airheaded comments, and Alicia rips into her. And the rest of the girls are like, yo, it was a mistake. Calm down. Alicia gets home, and guess who's there? Todd, waiting for an envelope with tickets to WWE. He's selling secrets, the pretty committee secrets, for tickets to the WWE. She tells him, he spills the tea about Kirsten being poor, Cam liking Massey, and Dylan going to fat camp. The next morning, she doesn't even wait. We don't even get a chapter break. She gets up, and the first thing she does is tell Dylan and Kirsten she knows her secrets, and insinuates that Massey is the one who told her. And they believe her for some reason. Like, why would Massey tell her that? You know that she's mad at Alicia. But whatever, they don't question it. Mostly because if they don't go along with it, Alicia will tell all their secrets to the rest of the school. And again, why would you want to be friends with a person like that? But I digress. Alicia offers them Olivia's knockoff scarves, two of the knockoff scarves, as a marker for being a member of the new pretty committee. Whew. And they take them because they don't want their secrets out. So Claire and Massey are the only ones left in the carpool because Dylan and Kirsten seem to not be talking to her. Claire and Massey have been doing their homeworks together, and it's like a sisterly symbiotic relation where Claire helps her do homework and stuff, but, you know, and Massey and Claire gets to be around Massey. Cam has been emailing Claire because he has her coat and he wants to return it to her, but she's kind of obsessed with the idea of him having it because it means it's something that makes him think of her. Claire comes home and finds Todd playing video games, and guess who is also there? Alicia. Alicia is like, hey, I heard that you broke up with Cam. It wouldn't be because Massey told you to. And she's just like, no. But she goes, well, of course Massey would tell you that. It's because she is, you know, she's interested in him and wanted to do that to pull you away from him. And Claire's like, oh, I hate this girl. Fist fight on site. Suddenly, memories of Massey talking about Cam flashed in Claire's mind with sharp clarity, as they were photographs she had taken with her digital camera. She began scrolling through them one at a time, a big smile on Massey's face when Claire said she'd ended things with Cam, Massey's offer to buy Claire a new coat so she could avoid seeing Cam, the heartless way Massey destroyed his letter, the BO rumor, the constant checking in to see if Claire had returned any of Cam's emails. The images came faster and faster until they played like a horror movie. Claire could feel the tears starting to come. Alicia bit her lower lip and put her hand over her heart to show how sorry she was for Claire, but that brought little comfort. Lately, it seemed like everyone was just pretending to care about Claire when they were really just scheming and backstabbing. This will help. Alicia pulled a scarf out of her pocket. Wear it to school and no one will mess with you ever again. Claire dabbed her eyes with a silky cloth. She wanted to know how a stupid scarf could possibly protect her, but she couldn't bring herself to ask. All she wanted to do was get to her bedroom before Todd saw her cry. He'd never let her live it down. Claire stood up without saying another word to either of them and made a run for the stairs. When she got up to her room, she slammed the door and locked it behind her. Then she marched straight over to the curtains and pulled a string so Massey couldn't see her. She ripped the phone jack out of the wall and wrote an I am away message that said, "I'm sick, please don't disturb." Claire didn't want to hear from Massey now, after dinner, or ever again. I mean, what do you do after that? The person who you've entrusted with your secrets has, betrayed you. This is the only one that makes sense. Like, without the idea of, telling the whole school being the threat. Like, Massey has shown that she would do something like that. So we're at Westchester Mall with Massey, Dylan, and Kirsten. And they're all, hanging out. They've got a lot of social engagements to head off as we move into the Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year season. And they also have the OCD/Briarwood non-denominational tree lighting ceremony. So she has to find something to wear. Kristen and Dylan are essentially ignoring her, talking to each other and enjoying each other's company, but they are not really, talking to Massey. Massey tries to go shopping to, leave all the other things out, and they're all arguing and things are getting really petty about poor people and how fat other people are, and Massey's just like, I didn't say anything about y'all's secrets, so I don't know why you're yelling at me. And Massey tries to, just shake it off by shopping, but she reaches into her purse and realizes she left her card in her other bag. Massey sees that Dylan has the faux Louis Vuitton scarf and is like, "Et tu, Brute?" Turns out she busts into the changing room where Kirsten is and is like, "You too have one." And she's just like, "What? Are you friends with Alicia?" And they're like, "Yeah, because you sold out our secrets." And she's like, "Why would I do that?" And they're just like, "Why would you do it?" Totally avoiding the conversation. And she's like, "Why did you come with me if you thought that I was selling out your secrets? Why'd you come to the mall?" And they're like, "We need a ride." And she's like, "Well, you got what you wanted. I'm leaving." And Kirsten, in the end, Kirsten yells after her that she'd rather be poor than being a liar. Massey says, "Congratulations, you've got your wish," and the alarm rings inside the store, and Kirsten is still wearing the clothing she was trying on. She tries to leave, but security comes and tackles her back into the store, and Massey runs off and cries inside of a Sears because she knows no one else she knows would see her there, as she's getting absolutely, from each angle. Back at the block estate, she tries to find Claire, but Claire's still hanging out with Lainey. And she won't, her inbox is empty, she has no social engagement, she's feeling very lonely, a very, naked and alone Christmas tree, and you know how much she hates that. She can't find her dog, and when she goes back into her main estate, she's at the guest house, when she goes back into her main estate, she finds Bean playing with Nathan and Todd. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're practicing for our WWE tickets." And they're like, she's like, "What?" And she goes, "I got WWE tickets from Alicia." And Massey's like, the math has started mathing up in her head. And she's like, she pushes him against the wall and is just like, you better start telling me everything or I'm jack your shit up. So that's how Massey finds out about Alicia's, crappy behavior. So now Alicia is at Harris Fisher's house and it's time for her to give him the tickets to the show. She's so confident he's gonna ask her. She even like peeps his calendar and sees on there Ask A to go to Strokes concert. She's texting her friends. She's trying to get on like a three-way with them. They're going, back and forth. Alicia is trying to be sexy and approachable. She does like this sexy little look. And then he goes, oh wow, you got a twitch in her eye. That's like my math teacher. My math teacher's, she's like such a hottie. And she goes, oh, I'm so glad you think I'm a hottie. And he goes, no, my math teacher. Because he's attracted to grown women. Which, he's like, maybe it would be hotter when you're older, but you're a child. And she's just like, well, she looks all sad. And he goes, well, he goes, is there anything I can make it up to you? And she's just like, you could come to you could invite me to go to the show with you. And he's like, I'm sorry, I invited my friend Angela to go already. He tries to pay her the $180 for the tickets. Mind you, they're box seats. Inflation is a bitch. But she's like, no, consider it an early Christmas present. This child, like, physically punches herself in the thigh because she's so embarrassed for feeling so mature. And he's like, oh, God. Ugh. And then he's like, hey, can I call you at some point? And she's just like, yeah. And he goes, I want to get White Stripes tickets as well. And she's just like, up, game over. And, she's not the hookup. She's the hookup. She's the plug. She storms out of the room, ready to go home, feeling defeated, when she sees Massey come in the doorway. And she's like, ah, yeah, we'll go up to your room, Cam. And smacks him on the butt. And, in a friendly way. But that's all Alicia needs to really stab the knife and turn it in Claire on a knife that Massey didn't even put in there. Massey's been having a harder and harder time doing this math homework without Claire, and she's, having a whole issue. Her mom comes in and is just like, how are you? And she's just like, I've been having issues socially. And her mom is just like, I got you, boo. Here are some self-help books about how to admit when you're wrong and how to, end conflicts, interpersonal conflicts. Massey takes the time to read them and self-reflect. We get another current state of the union. Principle number 3. If you are wrong, admit it. Principle 4. It's so complicated. I might just scan it and put it on screen because that's a lot. But essentially the principles are in, admit it if you're wrong. Out, blaming others, especially when you're guilty. Principle 4, begin in a friendly way. Out, making hate murals to show how hurt you are. Principle 8, try to see things from another person's perspective and point of view. Out, all my friends are lame female dogs. Ooh. And in is advice from Dale Carnegie. And out is advice from Bean. Here is the emails that she sends to her friends, which I wish they didn't treat Kirsten and Dylan like they were the same person. It's kind of dehumanizing. Where's their complex backstory? Dear K and D, hi, I thought I'd drop you a friendly email. I'm sorry I walked away when Kirsten got stopped for shoplifting from BCBG. By the way, arrested? Hope not. Smiley face emoji. I was just upset that you thought I told Alicia your secrets, but if you have to see things from your point of view, I understand why you thought that. I would have too anyway. I know who told her. Call me if you want to find out. XOXOXO. Massey hit save and then wrote another one. Dear Claire, hi. Thought I'd drop you a friendly email. If you're still sick, I hope you feel better. If you are upset about Cam or mad at me for some reason, please call me. I would like to see things from your point of view so I can admit I'm sorry. Plus, I'm going to fail geometry if you keep this up. Smiley smiley face emoji, XOXO. Massey hit save again and then wrote the last one. Dear Alicia, hi! Thought I'd drop you a friendly email. Alicia, I admit we're even, okay? Let's end this war before someone, you, gets hurt. XOXO. Massey goes out and she just happens to notice some weird shits at the barn and sees that everyone's in her backyard. They're practicing their model poses. Claire apparently invited everyone to hang out in the barn. I don't believe it, but whatever. They're practicing their teen poses. Alicia was trying to keep that away from the pretty committee, but now that she has the new ones, it doesn't matter because as long as Massey's not involved, she wins. So while everyone's there together, Lucinda calls and it's just like, okay, here are the parameters. You're going to go to New York City. We're going to have a dinner the night before, take a lot of photos, and then the next morning you're going to go on a little shopping spree in the meatpacking district, and then you're going to buy everything you're going to wear for the photo shoot. Massey's like, okay, we've got this information. Please leave my home. And Alicia's like, it's a free country. And she's like, bitch, get out. So she goes back upstairs and deletes all these emails. And it's just like, yeah, no, fuck this. I'm not apologizing to the people who would do this to me. And honestly, fair. Because there's one thing about attacking this person. It's another person to loiter on their property. Don't make people with money get involved like that. So now it's the day of the photo shoot and Claire has to get into the city. They're riding in Alicia's limo. And, so she's working her way there. She's hanging out with Lainey, who, I don't remember how long she's had braces. I feel like it might have been the second book. She now has like big old traditional over the top headgear to get her teeth all correct. So as Claire comes up to the car to wish them well, Alicia's like, if you promise to get rid of all that headgear, like she has like a purpose, you can be a part of our girl squad. And so Lainey's like, oh thanks, takes the scarf and uses it to clean up a melted popsicle that was in her purse. Have fun at your shoot, Claire. She's honest to God a really good friend, and I'm glad that Lainey doesn't seem to take it personally how much Claire wants to be a part of the pretty committee. It's good to have someone outside of a main friend group to keep grounded when your actual friend group starts fucking up. They're all like, okay, we're ready to go, and they're like, well, what about Massey? And they're like, Massey's not coming. So it's Alicia, Olivia, Kirsten, Dylan, Claire, Corey, Strawberry. Corey and Strawberry aren't modeling, but they are there as her friends. Again, as they attempt to try and initiate things that they would have done in the original Pretty Committee. There's no inside jokes. Kirsten and Dylan don't like Corey and Strawberry, so it's just very tense. Olivia lets it slip that Todd is the reason that Alicia knew everything. Dylan immediately starts texting Massey to be like, hey, sorry we accused you. We found out that you weren't the one who did this. So, and Alicia's like, it might have been Massey. I don't remember. And it's just like, there are no consequences for her just flat out lying to her friends' faces. I ought to beat that bitch's ass. Look at this tiny fist. What is this tiny fist gonna do? I don't know. I feel like I could really, protect the knuckle and just... So Claire is still mad at Massey. Not because she spilled his secrets, but because she stole Cam. But she is glad that, things are going back to normal. And Kirsten and Dylan are text messaging each other, essentially ignoring the rest of the group because fuck those weirdos. So now they're back into the Pretty Committee. And Massey is on the way into the city with Harris. The restaurant, Sushi Samba, where Massey Darrington, Cam, and Harris have arrived to meet up with Lucinda. They're up on a dais, and it's essentially two rival cliques happening. Massey doesn't really have, there aren't any other spaces, so Massey has to sit next to Claire and Darrington, and Cam is sitting up elsewhere at the front. Darrington and Massey have my favorite cute little moment, where they're just like, Massey just trying not to be like bored and sad out of her mind, is making small talk with him. And she's like, why do you always have your knees out? And he's just like, this is just how I like to be. And she goes, well, would you rather, you know, have to wear, or no, he goes, would you rather always have to wear like a cashmere sweat, like a sweatsuit, or always have your legs out? She's like, I don't know what a cashmere sweatsuit is. I didn't know they made those. And he was like, well, they don't. I just made it up. Well, she's like, well, I'd rather have the cashmere sweatsuit because I'd be the first one to wear it. And he's like, well, I'd already rather have my knees out. You already know the answer. And there's kind of this modicum of respect, even though Massey, you know, started out the last book kind of hating him, but now she's got herself a little crush. It's cute. I'm being sucked in. We meet Pablo, the other photographer. He's taking photos of everything. And Lucinda is sharing gossip, but because Dylan's mother is a celebrity, she's not so easily wooed by incorrect fact just because they're, you know, it's hot gossip. And she corrects her. And then this is a launch pad for Massey to just come for this girl for Alicia's neck. And she just, don't worry, Luce, Alicia said, touching Lucinda's shoulder. It's probably a fake item. Massey felt her pulse quicken. She widened her amber eyes and placed both of her palms on the table. You should know. She didn't care if the entire restaurant heard her. What's that supposed to mean? Alicia yelled from the other end of the table. Pablo swiveled his head back and forth, snapping pictures as though he was shooting a tennis match at Wimbledon. It means it takes a fake to know a fake. Massey hissed. Those wannabe Louis scarves you've been giving out should be illegal. I wouldn't be surprised if it gave you all rashes around your necks when you take those things off tonight. And what about those two? She points at Corey and Strawberry. They're a total knockoffs of K&D. Kirsten and Dylan smiled with deep satisfaction and sat up a little taller in their seats. Now that I think about it, you do kind of look like Dylan. Kirsten and Dylan and Kirsten, Harrison said to the Wannabes. Totally, Cam agreed. Thanks, Corey said sweetly. Yeah, thanks. Strawberry beamed. Pablo quickly changed his roll of film. Lucinda was scribbling notes on her cloth napkin and saying things like, oh, this is good, to herself. Again, why are you so involved in the arguing and squabbling of children? But whatever. Claire is pretty oblivious to all of this and just sitting around looking miserable. Massey's like, hey, I have a gift for you. And she's like, what is it? It's her coat. And she's like, well, I got you this, I got your coat back. The coat that she left at Cam's house. And Claire's just miserable. She's sad. And she's just like, oh well. Claire is just like, rubs her face in the coat. Is Massey like, what are you doing? She goes, you're rubbing it in my face, your relationship with Cam. And then she runs off to go be sad. So Massey runs off after her, and Alicia follows because Alicia likes mess. At this point, that's my only explanation, is Alicia is doing 90% of the garbage thing she's doing because she likes mess. She goes there, and Massey's like, let's talk. We have to talk. And Alicia's like, let me help you. And she's like, I'm not leaving this bathroom. And Claire's like, go flirt with your boyfriend. And she's like, Darrington's not my boyfriend, Massey. And Alicia's like, new gossip. She's like, I'm talking about Cam. Go flirt with your boyfriend, Claire shouted. Darrington's not my boyfriend, Massey shouted back. Alicia gasped and put her hand over her mouth. I'm talking about Cam, Claire sounded frustrated. I'm not an idiot. I never said you were an idiot. Massey, I'm so over you, Claire wailed. I don't care if you throw things at me in the halls or you spread rumors about me or anything. I'd rather be a complete loser than have you as a friend. You boyfriend stealer. She started crying even harder. Claire, Massey pressed her lips right up against the door. Gross. I would never steal your boyfriend. How as the world turns do you think I am? Alicia told me everything, okay? Claire said. She even saw you at his house, so don't try and lie. A line was starting to form behind them. Claire, I went to the house to get your coat. Yeah, right. And to tell him that I put you up to the dump. I swear on Bean. Massey holding her palm up to the closed door. Did you tell him you liked him and that's why you did it? Massey leaned closer. I told him that I heard he liked to look up girl skirts and that I was looking out for you. And then he believed you? Yeah. And then Alicia is stirring the pot being like, do you really believe her? And it's like, why would she lie? And she's just like, ugh. And she's just like, if I wanted to steal Cam, I would. And I didn't. So Claire finally comes out. They have a little hug moment. Claire blows her nose. And the people who are waiting in line to use the style bust in. When they come back, Cam, Harris, Darrington have left because they're spending the night with Cam's dad. And then, you know, they're heading back to Westchester. Now it is time for the girls to sleep and get on with the next morning. Claire goes back to her seat to find that Cam has left another burned CD for her. Aww. Aww. The next morning, the girls are in the meatpacking district, and each girl that is modeling has been given $300 to shop with. Alicia's excited to get started, but it is nothing if it is not chaotic. She learns really what it is like to be an alpha as her omegas go running around trying to fist fight other clique members. I want to go check out their boots, Corey announced before taking off and slamming into Massey, who had been carrying an armload of miniskirts that were now all over the ground. Corey and a sales guy raced to pick everything up while Massey stood above them with her hands on her hips. I can't stand to watch this anymore, Alicia said to Olivia. I have to get the chandelier earrings before anyone else grabs them. On her way to the jewelry display, Alicia passes Dylan. She was looking at the lace dresses and stuffing her face with sugar-free cookies that had been hanging off the tree branches in wax envelopes. Strawberry wandered up beside her and started looking at the same dresses. Why are you breathing down my neck? Dylan asked. Strawberry, do you want something? Okay. Strawberry said, putting her clammy fingers all over 2 cookies Dylan had in her hands. Ugh, just take them. Thanks, Strawberry said with a grateful smile. So what are you going to buy? Alicia wanted to shop for earrings, but she couldn't help listening on their conversation, in case she had to jump in and save Strawberry. I don't know what I'm going to buy yet, Dylan snapped. Let me help you. I know since we kind of look alike and all. Police, Dylan shouted. She wiped her crumbly hands on a pair of pinstriped pants. These girls have no home training. I'd beat their asses already. Your hair color comes from a packet of Kool-Aid, and by the look of those thighs, your nickname should be Pear, not Strawberry. Now doesn't she have the nerve? I was only trying to help, Strawberry screeched. Her face turned bright red. Alicia put the earrings back on the velvet display board and ran to Strawberry's side in case she started crying. Are you okay? But Strawberry ignored Alicia. She grunted twice, wiped the half-eaten cookie on the shiny white floor, and said, "You moose!" She shouted as she placed it from a place deep within her and pushed Dylan into a metal rack of lace dresses. Pablo snapped as many shots as he could before the security guard grabbed Strawberry by the back of her ponytail and dragged her outside. It is complete pandemonium. So now we have finished one shop and into the next, in which Corey and Kristen get into it, in which Kirsten repeats back a lie started by Alicia that Corey's mom got so much plastic surgery that she looks like Michael Jackson. I can't wear a juicy... Oh my god. If I were you, I'd pocket the $300 and wear that, Corey whispered to Kirsten. I can't wear a juicy sweatsuit on a photo shoot. Besides, they're 2 years ago. Kirsten said, I'm just wearing it now because it's easy to get in and out of while trying things on. Yeah, but don't you, like, need the money? Corey asked. What? Kirsten's aqua eyes looked a little glassy. Alicia knew where things were going. Hey, Corey, sorry to interrupt, but there's nothing wrong with being poor, Kirsten, Corey said, ignoring Alicia. Don't forget, I live in Brickview, too. Probably because your mother spent her entire savings on those facelifts that make her look like Michael Jackson. Kirsten said loud enough for two older ladies at the next rack to hear. She needed them for her sinuses, Corey stomped her foot. It's a deviated septum. So they removed her entire nose? Kirsten shouted. At least my mother could afford surgery, Corey screeched before she took off running. Well, maybe she can afford to get you soccer lessons. The girls run off, and Alicia doesn't get to buy anything. She actually gives the $300 to split between the two of them to do a little shopping. But she does not have enough time to buy anything. I don't know how that took 2.5 hours, but apparently it did. Whew. Massey bought the outfit that Kirsten was building to wear herself just to spite her. More fighting ensues. I can't wait to wear this, baby. Massey pulled out the Greek goddess dress. A sheet of white tissue paper landed by Alicia's feet. I loved it the moment I saw it in Teen Vogue. Have I been calling the magazine Teen People? It's been Teen Vogue. Alicia crossed her legs, then uncrossed them. She shifted her weight from one butt cheek to another. No matter how much she squirmed, she couldn't quite squash the urge that was building inside her. She even tried biting her tongue to keep herself from saying anything, but that just hurt. Admit you saw me pull it off the rack first, Alicia said. Massey laughed through her nose and shook her head. You're the wannabe, not me. Kirsten and Dylan broke into a round of high fives. Claire fidgeted with the automatic door lock. Strawberry and Corey looked at Alicia to see how she would react, but it was Olivia who spoke first. Massey, I know you brought that dress to bother Alicia, she said. I heard you talking about it with Dylan. Fo looked at Dylan and smirked. How can you hear anything with all that dry hair covering your ears, Dylan said. Well, at least my hair isn't the same color as Ron McDonald's, Alicia said. Hey, Strawberry said. I took offense to that. Hay is for horses, Kirsten said. Yeah, like Dylan, said Corey. And sails are for boats, Alicia said, unless you're Kirsten. At least I have a job, Kirsten said. What are you going to do when Old Man Rivers dries up? His last name is
Rivera.
Are you related to Joan and Melissa? Strawberry asked. Shut up. Alicia snapped. Why can't you just be cool for 1 second? God, how hard is that? Strawberry's mouth opened wide and she crossed her arms in front of her chest. Sorry, Alicia said, protecting her face with her hands. Remember, my father's a lawyer. Strawberry stuffed her fists in her coat pockets. The middle partition rolled down and Lucinda popped her head into the back seat. We're here. Now that we've stopped, let me get one fun shot inside the limo, Pablo said. Say Merry Christmas. Claire's the only one who says Merry Christmas before everyone is in salt mode. They get back to the studio and the set is like a giant snow globe with fake snow as Santa. Massey instigates an argument which ends up with everyone rocking each other's shit. Alicia breathed deeply, inhaling the sweet smell of pine. Is it real? She asked, wondering how a fake blue tree could give off such a strong smell. Yeah, we dyed the needles, Lucinda said. Does that bother you? Massey asked. Huh? Massey turned to Lucinda and said, Alicia likes everything to be fake. Alicia wanted to shout, I hate fake things. Sorry. The knockoff scars were an act of desperation. So were Corey and Strawberry and the cheating and everything else I did. But she didn't. Instead, she felt everything she'd gone through the past few days boiling up inside her, then took a big step back and charged Massey, knocking her into the elves. They both caught their balance before either one of them fell. Excuse me, there's no hitting in fashion, Lucinda said. Now there is, Massey said as she ran full speed into Alicia. This time they both landed in the snow. Alicia could feel Massey's bony butt on top of her back as as Massey bit at her hair. Alicia turned around and tried to lick Massey's cheek, hoping it would make her get up. But every time she stuck her tongue out, Massey would grab it and pinch it. "Get off me!" Alicia screamed. It was the closest thing she could get off me without the use of her tongue. She wrapped her fingers around Massey's charm bracelet and used it as a handle to pull Massey's arm away. One of the charms fell off into Alicia's hand, and she quickly dropped it in her boot. Alicia saw a sudden flash of light and thought she might be dying until she heard Pablo say, "I love it! Give me more! Give me drama!" Big flakes of white powder fell from the ceiling while stagehands tested the snow machine. Alicia tried to wipe them away from her eyes, but Massey's knees were digging into her arms. "Stop it! You're hurting her!" Olivia said as she jumped on Massey's back and pulled her off of Alicia. "Get her, foe!" Alicia yelled. "Stop calling me foe!" Olivia wailed and slapped Alicia on the thigh. "Ouch!" Alicia said before pushing Olivia's nose. "Not the nose!" Olivia pushed back just as hard as Kristen was coming over to watch, and Alicia fell against Kristen's sins. "I need those for soccer, you know," Kristen said to Olivia before charging her. They fell against Santa's throne and squashed the prop presents that had been placed beside it. "Did you wrap this one at work?" Olivia asked Kristen as she pulled a crushed box out from under her and smashed it over Kirsten's head. "The only job you ever had was on your nose," Kristen said as she whacked Olivia across the back with a satin ribbon. "Stop it before you destroy my set," Lucinda said, racing to drag the fake presents out of the way. "Move," Pablo shouted at Lucinda. "You're blocking my shot." "How's this for a shot?" Lucinda said, snapping his leg with her coin-covered scarf. Alicia rolled away from Massey and quickly jumped to her feet. She caught her reflection in one of the silver round ornaments on the tree beside her. Her lip was swollen and her hair looked like a bird's nest. She looked around to see how the other girls were holding up. Kristen and Olivia had managed to squeeze one of their butt cheeks onto Santa's throne and were clawing at each other's necks, fighting for complete domination. Dylan was pulling Corey across the floor by the tips of her rubber snow boots. A big pile of fake snow gathered between her legs. The elves were chasing Strawberry and Claire, trying to pull her pants down. Alicia and Lucinda was shouting, "Security!" to no one in particular. "You're calling me a hardy?" Dylan yelled. Everyone stopped fighting and looked up. Before anyone could stop her, Dylan tackled Santa before they both smashed into a blue Christmas tree. "Timber!" Kirsten yelled when the tree started to sway. Dylan and Santa were looking up at the tipping tree and screaming. They rolled away 1 second before it came crashing down into the studio. Everyone raced over to Santa and Dylan's side, except Massey. She stood across the room with a half smile on her face, watching the drama from afar. Alicia didn't want to get caught staring at her, but found it hard to look away. It felt like there was some mysterious magnetic force at work, drawing her in. And then, as if Massey had felt it too, she turned her head and looked right at Alicia with her fiery amber eyes. A sudden rush of prickly heat shot up. Alicia's spine made her feel intensely alive, like a cell phone that had just recharged its battery. Suddenly, for no reason and every reason, they both started laughing. And once they started, they couldn't stop. They held their stomachs and slapped their thighs and threw their heads back until they let the tears spill down their cheeks. Well, they're reunited. Massey realizes that her crown is missing, and Alicia's like, "Boom, I found it on the ground. Here you go." And Massey's like, "Thanks for giving it back. I'm glad we can be friends again." Lucinda's like, "My shoot's ruined," and Massey essentially Mento judos her into being like, "No, it's not ruined. You just have a story to tell about, how intense the stress can be of Christmas. And so you can just name it Santa's Little Helpers. And, we'll do a couple of shots that are a little more staged." Massey's the type of girl to be reading War and Peace by the pool just to, get it together. Just Alicia's spoken like a true alpha to Massey. And Alicia realizes and admits that it is hard work what Massey does, and that it is not for the faint of heart. And they agree to be friends again on 3 conditions. 1. Claire is the only new addition to the pretty committee this year. That means Olivia can't sit with us during lunch anymore, but you can still be friends with her. 2, you have to get rid of the knockoffs. And 3 is do it now. Alicia calls a town car from her family's account and puts the girls back in the car, Corey and Strawberry. And, no, it was teen people. I feel like I'm losing my mind. She waits for them to get into the town car before she goes back inside. And when she comes back, the photo shoot is over. Massey declares now the girls are even. So it's been like 2 weeks since the photo shoot and they've gotten the photos back. Massey is holding a viewing party in the cafeteria. Claire's trying to get Lainey to come so that she can be her +1 to do the viewing. Everyone is absolutely obsessed with the idea that these girls are models and that they're lined up hoping to get to see it. Everyone has a photo. Everyone gets to look at the photos, all the pretty committee, and then Massey opens it to the general public. Suddenly, Claire had a tiny idea of what Massey Block must feel like. Every day she had to make people want to be her, and every day she somehow had to show them that it was a lot harder than it looked. And that was one thing about Massey that Claire didn't envy. So, Massey and Claire get to meet up with Darrington and Cam. The two of them, Claire and Massey, have gotten really close. They're very sisterly now. My favorite line of the book, the two get some hot chocolate, and Claire takes the one with marshmallows in it and she gives the other one to Massey. Massey's like, where are my marshmallows? How are the marshmallows? Massey asked. How did you see that? Claire turned around and faced Massey. Why didn't I get any? Massey whined. Sugar. Please, Massey said. Do you know how much sugar is in those Dr. Juice drinks I was downing? Did you know that fruit is sugar? Did you know that fruit is sugar? I love that. That's my favorite type of like child dieting. And I know that's a fucked up thing to say, but like you teach children things, but you don't fully teach them the building blocks of how to eat healthily. And then they do things like, you know, are like, oh my god, this smoothie should be good. It should be sugar-free. And then they learn that sugar comes from fruits. Bless. As the morning announcements happen, not morning announcements, the announcements happen ahead of the I'm not getting bitten by a bug this close to the end. We learned that Alicia is going to be doing the class announcements in place of comedy. She is one step closer to living her journalistic newscaster fantasy. Alicia tells Massey that Harris isn't there because he's at the Strokes concert, and that's going to be a total PC, a private conversation between the two of them. And that it's, you know, something to share later. Well, lastly, Todd wanders up to Massey looking very bedraggled and sad. And she's like, what's up, dude? And essentially, he's heard that his parents have bought a house in Chicago and that they are moving there. And they're like, well, we can't tell Claire yet. She's just finally gotten comfortable. And so for a moment, we just have a moment of calm because for right now, everything is perfect. I really enjoyed this one. This one was good. I wish I had something more impactful or profound to say about this. I don't. I just really burned through this one and was excited to film and tell you about it. This one being the longest one so far. Looking at them in my catalog of remaining books that are left, there are only 2 books that are thicker than them. And I don't know when that one's gonna be coming up. But again, next book is Invasion of the Boy Snatchers, which is the red and white one. Just so that I have and I don't have to forget about it. The next book in the series is be sure to read all the CLIQUE novels in the best-selling CLIQUE series to keep your eye out for Invasion of the Boy Snatchers. I don't even know what I'm gonna wear for this. That's what, yeah. She is tight. I know I owned Invasion of the Boy Snatchers prior. These are gorgeous. This makes me think of playing games of SSX.